Hello, welcome to Ray-ality TV. I'm Raymond Bakari. Today I'm joined by 2022 Democratic candidate for Lieutenant Governor and former state representative of District 39, Larry Valencia. Rep. Valencia, how are you today?
I am awesome, Raymond. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you on. My first question is a general one I ask to every candidate seeking office. Why do you want to be the next Lieutenant Governor?
Well, I don't want to be the next lieutenant governor. To be clear, I want to be the last lieutenant governor because I don't believe in the position. I want to see it eliminated, and I think I could save the state money and energy and redirect it in other ways that could be useful.
And you are running, as you just said, to be the state's last lieutenant governor. My apologies for the mix-up. This includes a pledge to run a Bob Healy-style campaign where you won't take any donations or pour in millions of dollars. Will work to close the office for good and won't take any salary if elected. Just out of curiosity, how exactly would that process of eliminating the office go?
So, well, obviously, if I were elected, I would work with the legislature to pass legislation to make that change. Obviously, this is part of the Constitution. The Constitution has to be amended. And as in the case of any constitutional amendment, you need to have a referendum first. So we would have to pass a law restating how the lieutenant governor position would exist. And, even though I'm running to eliminate the position, I'm also hoping that my candidacy is putting pressure on people to clean it up, because even if I don't succeed, I want to get across the message to people that it's a broken situation, because it's not tied to the governor's race at all. And as you know, statutorily, the lieutenant governor just chairs a few small committees and really could be eliminated very easily.
It may take a bit of time if, say, you are elected for that office to be fully eliminated and you pledge to not take a salary if elected.
Yes.
Where would that money go? Would you donate to charity? Does it go back to the state's budget for revenue?
I would encourage the governor not to include a salary for my position or for any of the positions involved. So that means I'm not accepting a salary. I'm not hiring a chief of staff. I'm not hiring any staff at all, any policy people. And if I do that, it's going to create a situation where there's really almost no money being spent at all. That'll save the state over $1 million a year. And I don't know if people realize Bob Healy first ran for governor and first put forth this proposal back in 1986. And if we had instituted this back in 1986, we probably would have saved upwards of $50 million to the state of Rhode Island.
If you're unable to eliminate the position, is there any ideas of what you would do in that meantime? I've heard, say, for example, from Republicans on this show saying that they want to act as an inspector general, which is an interesting idea in itself. Is there anything in mind that you would do in that time frame?
So, like you said, statutorily, we know that there's at least four chairmanships. There's elder care, there's emergency management, there's a small business advisory group. I would continue to chair those committees and work in those areas. Right now, I'm a high-level person within Rhode Island Lions District 42. So already on my calendar, I have upwards of 20 meetings a year. And I went back and I looked at those different committees, and I don't think they've met more than 15 or 20 times in the past calendar year. So the workload, I think I could easily absorb. I don't need the salary. I can do it part-time evenings, just like the legislature does.
Shifting to some state issues, I want to talk about the state surplus of money that is going to be spent in this budget. Right now, the budget's it looks like it's going to sit at $13.6 billion. There's a bunch of ways that the ARPA money is being spent on. I'm not sure how much you've looked at the budget, but do you have any initial thoughts on how that money's been spent or how it's going to be spent?
I have been thinking about it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get this much money from the federal government. So I certainly don't want to see any of it wasted. When I was in the legislature, one of the ideas that I had put forth was this idea of an inspector general. And one of the big pushbacks on that was that it was going to cost upwards of $500,000 to get that office started. that was never a good argument in the first place, because if you know anything about inspector generals at the state level, you would know that every state level inspector general saves anywhere between 10 and 20 times the cost of their office, even from year one. So just creating an inspector general is going to create a cash flow back to the general coffers. And I know I didn't answer that question exactly when we were talking about eliminating the position, because I'm not asking for that money up front from the governor. That money would stay in the general fund.
One thing that, and you'd mentioned this in one of your answers, there are certain councils that the lieutenant governor has to make appointments to, and even chair some related to small businesses. And I know you don't want the office to exist anymore, but since small businesses is a kind of a part of the office, from your perspective, what do you think can be done to help out the state small businesses?
Well, I know from talking to people that have small businesses, whether it's the convenience stores and liquor stores and people that are just general contractors, there's a feeling amongst those folks that there's too much regulation in comparison to Connecticut and Massachusetts. And so they feel like they're at a structural disadvantage. So I would do everything I could to streamline the regulatory framework for small business people. I would have people looking at that, ways to restructure the regulatory environment, and put forth legislation to make that better, make us more like our neighbors. Because Connecticut and Massachusetts consistently rank higher than us in a lot of different categories. And I know that from a small business perspective, that's also the perception.
Looking at one issue you were very passionate about as a state rep, you were very passionate about the environment. A lot of elected officials in the state are prioritizing the blue economy and tuning that into their message. For example, the state passed the Act on Climate not too long ago. A city level Green New Deal is sounding more open to happening in a city like Providence. And it's still an issue that, despite the Act on Climate passing, that progressives want to see more done in regard to the environment and combating climate change. I want to ask you this, since you prioritize the environment as a rep. Is the state doing enough about climate change? And if not, what else can be done?
Well, I know that we're doing some initial work. I know that Senator Oyer just passed some legislation that's addressing concerns in the climate, but we can always do more. I don't know if people realize it or not, but at the federal level, the Pentagon is doing their war planning based on a warmer planet and an Arctic that's melted, and that there's going to be extra access in the Arctic to both Canadian and NATO forces, as well as Russians and the Chinese. So if the federal government is taking that serious a look at it, we need to also address it that seriously at the state level. And there's really, until we've turned around the situation with the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and we've actually stopped global warming from taking place, we have to do everything in our power to empower the cities and towns to do their own thing, but also provide a state regulatory framework to mediate the effects, because we are a coastline state. And, already Newport's, when they have a storm surge or high tides, there's parts of the downtown that are affected. And I know it's going to affect Bristol and Warren and Narragansett and Westerly. Almost all the towns and cities are affected by it in Rhode Island.
Do you think a state level Green New Deal might be one of the solutions?
Absolutely. I would be open to everything, state level and also at municipal level, opening up opportunities for municipalities to seek and accept grants, anything to do with climate remediation.
These next couple, I want to do like a shorter form, lightning round style. They kind of talk about some issues that the past lieutenant governors have been passionate about, mixed in with some state-wide races and all that. My first one is, are you for or against an expansion of charter schools in Rhode Island?
So is this are we going to the two-word version of this? Is this just a faster?
One to 2 words would be preferred.
Oh, okay. So the question again was?
Are you for or against an expansion of charter schools in Rhode Island?
Against.
Do you consider yourself pro-life or pro-choice?
Pro-choice.
Which of the current candidates running for governor do you plan to support?
Nellie Gorbea.
And that same question, but for the Congressional District 2 Democratic primary.
Seth Magaziner.
My final question, I want to take a step away from politics. This is a non-political topic. I like to ask everyone on the show. This one is to keep the tradition going. It's in your opinion, what do you think Rhode Island is best known for?
I'd have to say intimacy. And what I mean by that is that everybody knows everybody, and both the positive aspects of that and also the negative aspects of that everyone knows everybody, and it's an interconnected society. The assumption is when you're from Rhode Island, you know someone else from Rhode Island, you obviously must know each other, right? And there's some truth to that because we're very small. We're only 39 cities and towns. And if you're somebody like me that has spent a little bit of time at the State House, it didn't take long for me to get to meet, most of the, the mayors and the town council presidents and the police chiefs and the fire chiefs and the reps and senators from every area. So, definitely when I'm traveling around the country, or if I run into a Rhode Island or overseas, if they tell me what town they're from, there's a very, very good chance I know someone very close to them or somebody that they know very well.
That's very true. And I think even more so when you ask them, like, what's your last name, for example. So my last name is Beccari. It's typically an Italian last name. So
Yes.
Immediately every time when I introduce myself to someone, I'm like, hey, I'm Raymond Beccari. They're like, oh, do you know this one? That one? Like, it happens all the time. 9 times out of 10, they'll mention 1 or 2 Beccaris that they may know that are also in Rhode Island. That's very true. And it's definitely one of our state's many big strengths. I love the fact that everybody knows each other. I mean, it does have some cons, but I feel like the pros outweigh them. Rep. Valencia, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure of mine to have you on the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Raymond.
And thank you for watching this episode of Ray-ality TV. If you want to see future episodes as soon as they're posted on this channel, please click the subscribe button down below and the post notification bell icon to the right of it. I'm Raymond Beccari, and I'll see you on the next episode.